Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. I'm John Dickerson. Speaker John Boehner is with us. This interview had been planned for some time. We were originally going to talk about the Pope's visit, and we will. But first, there's that big announcement you made Friday. And so I want to talk to you about that. But let's get right to the news. 4 days the government runs out of money. Is there going to be a shutdown?
No. The Senate is expected to pass a continuing resolution next week. The House will take up the Senate bill. We'll also take up a select committee to investigate these horrific videos that we've seen from abortion clinics in several states that really raise questions about the use of federal funds and raise questions about aborted fetuses that are born alive.
The continuing resolution, will that require Democratic votes to pass?
I'm sure it will, but I expect my Democrat colleagues want to keep the government open as much as I do.
And what about the rest of the business you want to get done before October 30th? What's on the to-do list?
Well, I've got another 30 days to be Speaker, and I'm going to make the same decisions the same way I have over the last 4.5 years to make sure that we're passing conservative legislation that is good for the country. So I expect that we might have a little more cooperation from some around town to try to get as much finished as possible. I don't want to leave my successor a dirty barn. So I want to clean the barn up a little bit before the next person gets there.
Well, let's talk about the state of the barn and its relative cleanliness. A lot of your colleagues I've talked to and friends who served with you use the word dysfunction and say basically that you had to resign because it's a sign of how dysfunctional things are in the House with Republicans. What do you say to that?
Well, I wouldn't call it dysfunction. Disagreement, yes. But as I said on Friday, I was planning on leaving at the end of last year. And when my friend Eric Cantor lost his primary election in July of last year, it was clear to me that I just couldn't leave, that I had to provide a transition for the next leaders. So I planned on serving through this year. And on November 17th, I was going to make an announcement. And on Thursday evening and Friday morning, I looked up and went, why do I want to put my colleagues through this when I'm going to make the same announcement 6 weeks from now? Why do I want to put the institution through this? And so it was the right decision. Frankly, I thought we handled it the right way.
When you talk about the decision that they were going to have to go through, it was going to be a pretty messy...
Yeah, a motion to vacate the chair.
Yeah,
so
kick you out of your job. Just sorry to help people at home who don't understand what vacating the chair is.
Listen, winning that vote was never an issue. I was going to get the overwhelming number of, I'd have gotten 400 votes probably. But why do I want to make my members, Republican members, like walk the plank? Because they're going to get criticized at home by some who think that we ought to be more aggressive. Listen, we've accomplished a lot over the 4.5 years that I was Speaker. And whether it was the largest deficit reduction deal in the history of the country, saving $2.1 trillion, protecting 99% of the American people from an increase in our taxes, or the first major entitlement reforms in 20 years. All done over the last 4.5 years with a Democrat president, and all voted against by my most conservative members because it wasn't good enough. Really? This is the part that I really don't understand. Our founders gave us the system of government, a majority in the House. You need 60 votes in the Senate. Then, if the House and Senate can agree, the president gets to decide. And our founders didn't want some parliamentary system where if you won the majority, you got to do whatever you wanted. They wanted this long, slow process. And so change comes slowly. And obviously, too slowly for some.
Well, are they unrealistic about what can be done in government? That's the dysfunction.
Absolutely, they're unrealistic. But the Bible says, beware of false prophets. And there are people out there, spreading noise about how much can get done. I mean, this whole idea that we're going to shut down the government to get rid of Obamacare in 2013, this plan never had a chance. But over the course of the August recess in 2013 and the course of September, a lot of my Republican colleagues who knew it was a fool's errand, really they were getting all this pressure from home to do this. And so we got groups here in town, members of the House and Senate here in town, who whipped people into a frenzy believing they can accomplish things that they know are never going to happen. It's just, but listen, I've had 25 great years here in Washington. I've had great staff, I've had great colleagues, and I'm very thankful to my family and to my constituents for giving me the honor to do this.
Is Ted Cruz a false prophet?
Listen, you can pick a lot of names out. I'll let you choose them.
You don't debate that assertion?
I'll refer you to my remark at a fundraiser I made in August in Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Let me put up a picture of you as a member of the Gang of Seven 25 years ago. You are the last member of the Gang of Seven still serving. You were a rabble-rouser then. You got some things changed in Republican leadership. Do you see any of yourself in these current conservatives who are giving you grief now?
No, I was a rebel, and it wasn't about shaking up the Republican leadership. It was about shaking up the House. The House was run, as one Democrat chairman called it, the last plantation in America. And whether it was the House bank scandal, the restaurant scandal, the post office scandal, sent my share of members to jail over improper activities in the House. But out of that, we began to question how the House itself was being run, the floor of the House. Helped us write the contract with America, helped us get into the majority, and it's been a great run.
Let me ask you about the, by the way, you called Ted, I believe the word you used was jackass, referring to Senator
I'm referring
Cruz.
to that same remark.
All right. We've buttoned that up for the American people. Pope Francis, switching to a much more bigger topic here. What was a bigger accomplishment for you, becoming named speaker or having the Pope come as your guest?
The kid who grew up as an altar boy, having the Pope here was a big deal. And I've tried over the last 20 years with the last three popes to get them to come and address a joint session of Congress. I'll never forget the first time I did this, back in 1995 or 6, and somehow it showed up in the press, and my mother called me. Still alive then, and my mother never called me. And so I answered the phone. John, it's your mother. Now listen, I see you're inviting the Pope. If he comes, I'm there. You got it? Yes, Mom, I got it.
She was with you there this time.
Well, looking from above.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Tell me about that day, the impression it left on you. I mean, it's a big deal having him come, but then you're in his presence.
Yes. So we had a nice greeting when he came to the Capitol, and once the cameras were gone and the Pope sat down, I said, your Holy Father, I said, you're on Boehner time. He looked at me kind of funny, and I said, that means you're on time or you're early, and you're early. But we had a wonderful chat, and Cardinal Wuerl and myself got into a conversation with the Pope about our commitment to kids and education. So, and then the meeting broke up, and my family came in, and my 6-week-old grandson, Alistair, was blessed by the Pope. So a very nice Pope.
When you told another story about what the Pope said to you about prayer.
Yeah, we had left the balcony where the Pope had addressed all the people on the west front of the Capitol, and we came through my office, and the Pope went down to the first floor on my elevator, and I took the British steps down to the first floor. And in what we now call Freedom Foyer, I was standing there with the Pope, and the cardinals and the rest of his entourage were all moving out to their vehicles, and the Pope takes his left arm and grabs my left arm and pulls me near him and saying really nice words. I would repeat them, except it would really cause me to cry. And then he put his arm around me and pulled me right into him and said, "Please pray for me." Well, you can imagine.
Yeah. And
I was a mess.
Yeah.
Who am I to pray for the Pope?
Yeah.
But I did.
You did. There is a belief in the Catholic Church that the Holy Spirit can move us. Did it, after that visit, to make this decision for you?
Well, I think it helped clear the picture. I never related one of these instances with the other, but clearly by Friday night it was pretty obvious to me that, hey, I think it's time to do this.
And so you woke up Friday morning and
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Woke up Friday morning, walked up to Starbucks and back, and walked to Pete's and back, my regular jaunts in the morning. At 7:45 Friday morning, I said, yep, it's time to do this.
Yeah. So in a year or so, you'll be back in Statuary Hall for the unveiling of your portrait. And what do you want them to say about you at that ceremony?
He was a good man.
That's it.
That's all.
Yeah. And do you have anything that you can say now that you're headed out the door that you wouldn't have said if you had to go through another election?
No, I love my colleagues. I even love the ones I don't, that may disagree with me, Republicans or Democrats. I love my colleagues. I love the institution. And, I try to do the right thing every day. I'm a pretty simple guy. I just try to do the right things for the right reasons, and the right things will happen.
Tell us about your thoughts about President Obama. You worked on that grand bargain. It didn't come through. Reflect on that for a minute.
Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest disappointments in my speakership. We were so close we had an agreement. And then 2 days later, the president walked away from it. It would have saved about $5 trillion over 10 years. It had been good for our economy, it had been good for the country, it had been good for our kids and our grandkids. But it's Washington. Things happen, and we move on. I had a nice conversation with President Obama on Friday morning. Nice conversation with one of my dear friends, George W. Bush, and all my legislative colleagues, the leaders.
What advice do you leave for your successor about the job?
Just do the right things for the right reasons. If you keep the country's best interest in mind, and have the courage to do what you can do. And it's easy to have the courage to do what you can't do, but to have the courage to do what you can do, just go do it. In our system of government, it's not about Hail Mary passes. It's the Woody Hayes School of Football. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's a slow, methodical process.
I want to ask you one last. What are you going to do now, by the way?
I don't know. I haven't had time to think about it. I made this decision, and we'll figure it out.
One thing that I heard a rumor about that you might be able to admit now that you're leaving. Do you do yoga?
I do. I'm not as diligent about lately as I used to a year ago, but I do. As a matter of fact, I thought about it this morning because it's great for my back. I've had back problems for 50 years, but the older you get, all those tendons, muscles, they all want to tighten up. It's good to stretch them out.
Yeah, it helps the golf game.
It does.
All right, Speaker John Boehner, thanks so much for being with us.
Nice to be with you.
We hope to see you again, by the way. You'll come back in retirement?
We'll see.
Yeah, there'll be lots to talk about.